Women in Print Alliance is dedicated to connecting, empowering, and advancing women in the printing industry. As part of Printing United Alliance, we're fostering a more inclusive future through advocacy, education, and networking opportunities that connect women across the entire industry. Join us as an individual to grow your career, expand your network, and access exclusive resources, or enroll your entire organization to show your commitment to supporting women in print. Become a member today at womeninprintalliance.org and help us shape the future of print.
Welcome to Her Imprint, part of the Impressions Exchange. I'm Denise Gustafson, your host. This podcast celebrates the remarkable women who are transforming the printing industry. We'll explore their journeys, from challenges to triumphs, and share the stories that leave a lasting imprint. Today, I have with me Haar. She's president and owner of the AlphaGraphics in Kansas City. So, Haley, welcome.
Thank you, Denise. It's great to be here.
It's awesome to have you. And to get us started, can you give me a little bit of background about AlphaGraphics Kansas City?
So AlphaGraphics Kansas City, we are part of the AlphaGraphics franchise family. We have been in business here for around almost 40 years now. I'm the second owner, and we provide printing signs and marketing to a variety of customers, both in the Kansas City region, but also because of our central location nationwide as well.
You're like perfectly positioned.
We are very nice, lots of conferences, but yeah, also, hey, can you ship all of these things to all of our businesses across the country?
Yeah, because you're like in between east to west, even north to south.
Right to south, yeah. Yep. We're very close to the center of the United States.
And that's a great place to be if you need to get stuff anywhere.
Exactly. We're about a 2-day ship to most major metropolitans.
Perfect.
At least. Yeah.
So now you said you're the second owner for this AlphaGraphics location. So how did you end up getting started in the industry?
It's a kind of a funny story. So I actually have a degree in biology, was planning to go to med school, decided that wasn't the right path for me. I got married, and my husband's uncle, who I got to be good friends with, owned 3 AlphaGraphics in the Denver market. Matt and I and my husband went and worked for him for a number of years. And then we started a family and decided we wanted to come home, which is Kansas City is my hometown. So we moved back and we're like, well, what are we going to do with ourselves? And we reached out to AlphaGraphics and said, is there anything in the area? And we lucked into the fact that there was an existing center here that was ready to sell. And so we were able to get in 2009 when the economy was not very good, but it was a good time for us.
So you started at AlphaGraphics in Denver. Was it just because it was just a job? What made you start with printing in the first place?
I had worked in a lot of things. So I'd worked in nonprofit. I'd used my biology degree in sciences and did some different things and worked for an accountant. So lots of different things. And Ed was looking for somebody, because he had 3 centers. He was looking for somebody he felt like he could trust to support him in some expansion projects. He came to Matt and said, do you want to come and run one of my operations? And I was just thinking I'd get a job in Denver. And we got there and he said, AlphaGraphics and the print industry is getting into this promotional ASI type of thing. Would you want to sell for me? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I like creativity. It's problem solving. So I said, sure, let's give it a try. He had a book of business, so I wasn't going out cold to sell to new people off the street. It was really going into the relationships he already had and saying, hey, look, this is a new product for us. And so we were really able to grow that line of business really quickly in the first year.
Really cool. So what was it like to hop in, more or less, both feet in to something that's completely, in a way, outside of your realm of knowledge?
It is, but I love problem solving. I love creativity. I love the art and the science of printing, that marry of being able to solve someone's problem. And so that was really a piece that really attracted me to the business. I could go in and work with the client. What are you trying to achieve? What are you trying to do? A lot of our businesses are looking for their own business. So how do we do that and help connect clients with their customers? And it really worked out as a good mix of both my skills and my interests as well.
And it's interesting for you because then you went back home and you decided to
Mhm.
continue it. And obviously now you're continuing it from a much different position. You're no
Yep.
longer just selling promotional products, you're running the show.
Yeah.
Was there a point in time for you that it really stuck to you that said, this is my home in terms of print is for me versus all of the other things that you had tried before?
That's a great question. So I think what it really came down to was a couple of things. I think one, business ownership and personally the franchise gave us a lot of flexibility. So I have three children. I was very young when I entered my AlphaGraphics ownership. I was only 32. Then I think I did think it was just a job. But as I got to grow up in it and have children and have a family and our business has grown, it's really been that piece where a lot of my talents do come together, whether it's the problem solving, it's the analytics, whether it's the creativity, the working with people. I love our clients. We do have a little bit of a niche in that we say yes to a lot of things that other printers will say no to. I love that when a client comes to us and said, everybody else has told me they can't do this. And I'm like, okay, let's figure out how we can do like a challenge for me. I think that's when it really hit home to me that I could get the best of everything this way.
Now, you move back home. At first, kids, husband, no job. So now you're trying to
Yep.
figure this out. What was it like once you're getting a business under you, you're getting your feet in a new market, trying to figure out all of this, and now you have a family, you have kids. How does that all work? Is there any kind of like work-life balance? That's not easy to do.
It's not. Luckily, we've had some really great support systems, friends and family, and my staff is great too. When we first bought the business, we just had our first daughter. She was about a year old. And so she would come to the office with me. I have pictures of her kind of pounding on the side of the printers, playing as a toddler. So that was easy. We had to be careful that she didn't get into anything dangerous, but as long as she stayed in the office side, she was good. And what we found is that we bought a business with a poor reputation. And so we really were starting from a lot from scratch. It was very startup those first couple of years. And I wasn't jumping into a business that was already over $1 million in sales with all the people and the problems that some of those things come in with. It was really nose to the grindstone, working on getting the business where it needed to be more successful. And then as we added kids, we have three daughters now. The oldest is 17, the youngest is 9. And, they've grown up along with us with the business and we have a great school that they attend that is very flexible with us, that works. It's a great community. We have friends and teachers there that know when we say, oh my gosh, something's happened. We didn't get out on time. We're going to be a few minutes late, or, hey, something's happened and can you pick Hannah up? Those things, we were able to work that out. So I think without kind of finding that community, it would have been a much harder than it has been to do.
I can't imagine not having that kind of a community to
Mhm.
offer that support because a flourishing business is one thing. You're literally going in and you're just directing. But here, like you said, you had to start more or less from the ground up.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time. That's a lot of your energy. And you had a 1-year-old.
Yep. Yep. And I'm lucky because my business partner is my husband. I am the sole owner of the business, but he's in the day to day with me too. And that's really his skill set, is to make sure that I come up with the ideas and he makes it happen in a lot of ways. And so it's a matter of that we make a good team. And a lot of our other franchisee partners will say, oh my gosh, it has to be so much easier because there's two of you. And in a lot of ways, it is easier because there are two of us.
Yeah.
It can be harder sometimes too.
Yeah. If you're not going to
Um,
if you don't agree on something, that's a conversation. And then also, work comes home with you
Yeah.
more so than if you were just working by yourself and he had another job or
His
vice
job.
versa.
Yeah. Yeah. When probably our oldest was probably around 3 or 4, and we were taking a walk in the evening with her or something, and we were talking, and she turned around and she said, do we have to talk about work right now? And
At
so
3, she was asking that
yeah,
question.
she was like, "Do we really have to be doing this right now?" She was very perceptive, but and we realized that we had to be cautious about not bringing it home all the time and separating, or at least separating it from, okay, when we're home with our kids, that time between home and bed is family time. And then if we need to get back on and work more after, then that's what we do. But we really figured out how to separate that. But on the plus side, our children have a much different perspective of money and the world and business than a lot of their peers because they hear us talk about taxes. They hear us talk about risk with employees or customers or the economy. And Hannah was telling us not to talk about it. But then a few years later, when we lost a key employee, she was like, isn't that going to be a problem? She was able to identify that, hey, there's something wrong with this picture. They are at a benefit too now because they do get to hear us talk about these things at home.
And apparently I'm seeing another future print employee down the line if she was able to figure that out at that age.
Not that one, but she has some other high aspirations. But
great,
yeah,
though.
potentially, yeah. So potentially one of her younger sisters, maybe.
It certainly is interesting to see how that all happens and how eventually you're going to want to retire. Then what happens? What does that plan look like for you down the line?
Sure. We have AlphaGraphics that are multi-generational. In some ways, we are multi-generational in the fact that we came out of another AlphaGraphics that was family before we bought ours. And our plan is flexible. We're in the network for many years to come. And if one of our children decided that this is something they wanted to do, we are totally open to that. But the other thing too is that we're open to it could be an employee if they came to us and said, hey, we love this. This is something we want to take over and continue the legacy. Having that be our future would be great. And then there's also just the option that we say, hey, we've done our due diligence and our duty and we love our business and let's find somebody who will love it just as much as we do.
Not that we're having you retire now because it is a little early, but
so I still have a third grader. So you got some time, almost some time. Yeah. So
now for you, as part of the AlphaGraphics franchise, you obviously have some built-in networking. You have built-in assistance peer to peer. How important is that kind of peer to peer networking and relationships? How important is that to you to help you grow, to help your company grow?
I think it's invaluable. There is just particularly within the AlphaGraphics network, but even in the broader, like we have a network here in Kansas City of non-AlphaGraphics printers that we communicate with and we're friendly with. And being able to call on somebody when you have a problem or you bought a new piece of equipment, and you're like, I can't figure this out. And to be able to call somebody and say, you have this piece of equipment, why can't I get it to do XYZ? That is so much different than calling the manufacturer because they're so technical and you're looking for practical application. So you have that, but then there's also the emotional support. Some of the people in the AlphaGraphics network, because we're not direct competitors, we're partners, we've become fantastic friends with some of the best friends of our lives. And so you call them and you talk about your kids, or I was on the phone with an AlphaGraphics owner yesterday and asking him some questions. We're finalizing our budget. And I had a question that I was like, I'm looking at this wrong. What help me figure out where I'm missing the boat here. And just having those kinds of resources out there that are in the practical every day, just like we are, is amazing.
Yeah, they're in the weeds with you. So they're running their business. Yeah. It's different. Like you said, instead of calling the manufacturer, they're going to say, you need to go through this process. And because that's what their techs are designed to do. You do the process. If it doesn't work, then you try a different process to get it to work. Right. But sometimes it's a tweak of some setting that somebody else has figured out that really helps, that makes everything just work perfectly.
And I think that's the other piece too that I love with the AlphaGraphics network, and I think with a lot of franchise networks, is that it's owner to owner peers. But my staff also knows other AlphaGraphics staff, and other owners are willing to support my staff. So if we have a question, I can say, hey, call so-and-so in Chicago. They have the same piece of equipment, see what their graphic designer says or something like that. And so it's a built-in community, not just for the owners, but also the whole group of individuals who are under that network umbrella because we need that support and it helps a lot.
Now, for you, you're an owner in a male dominated industry.
Yep.
How has that been for you? Have there been challenges? Is it tough? Is it not tough? Is it just something you just don't worry about? How do you approach that?
I think I worry about it less than I used to. I was a little out of deficit coming in early 30s. So I looked like I was an employee. I'd go to events, whether it was printing industry events or AlphaGraphics conferences, and they'd say, "Oh, who are you with?" And I'd say, "Oh, the owner of AlphaGraphics Kansas City." And I'd always get a second look like, "Oh, you're the owner?" And I think part of it was I young, part of it I was female. And it just surprised people. I think as I've gotten older, I worry about that less, but it still happens. A lot of people assume that my husband is the decision maker, that he's the one that they need to talk to. And that's where it's a blessing and a curse. I always tease vendors when they come in. The ones who know who they need to sell to are the ones that likely are going to get the business because it's not the staff out there. They're great and they're going to vet the machine. But at the end of the day, they're going to come to me and say, "This is what I want to buy." And I'm the one that's going to make that decision. And a lot of vendors just assume that it's one of my guys out there. And the funny thing is, I have a staff that is equally female. We are 50% female, 50% male. You're more likely to probably get what you want from one of the ladies here than you are from some of the guys.
Don't tell anybody about that.
No, but it is. It's like and the vendors come in, they want to talk with Matt and Brandon. And I'm like, sure, you do that. You waste their time and when they make a decision, they'll let me know and we'll go the direction that
And then
we
we'll
think
have
is
the
best for the business.
negotiation,
Yeah. Then I don't have to listen to everybody's spiel.
which definitely is better for you.
Yeah, it saves me a lot of time and I can tell them the questions that I want. And at the end of the day, like on equipment, they're the ones that are going to be using it. And for me, it's about quality, it's about relationships. And that's why the vendors who know that they want to sell to me is because I value that relationship and I want to be able to call the salesperson that sold me my color box if something's not working. I want to be able to know that I can call the support team or the technical team if a print head goes down. My team can come to me to escalate it, and I know the right people to talk to.
Yeah.
So that's a piece that I think a lot of people, just because we are a male dominated industry, that they gravitate towards them without necessarily thinking, okay, who's really going to be making this final decision in this organization?
Yeah. I don't know if it's just unintentional bias or they're just not thinking beyond what was traditionally there.
I think some of it is unintentional. I think some of it is they're the guys, they're the technical side, they're the production staff. So they must be the ones that know the most. And most of the times, yeah, if they're running the machine, they do know the most. But as far as making the financial decisions and the decisions that are best for the business and my employees, those ultimately come down to me because I'm the one that's going to have to step up and support those decisions, good or bad, at the end of the day.
Now, you said something interesting in that you don't worry about the fact that you're a woman in a big sea of men as much as you used to. Is it also because the industry has changed? Or is it more internally that you have changed, your perception has changed?
I think a good portion is that as I've matured, I've changed a bit, a decent amount. I also think that as the industry changes, as it ages and changes, you do see more women in printing. I have more peers. I have more women who are running AlphaGraphics. I have more women in the print industry who are C-level or above, when it used to just be I was the token female. My voice didn't carry as far. But now that there are more of us, and I think I've also, I hate to say that I had to do it, but I think I've proven my value over the last 15 years too, that I'm smart, I'm capable. I have just as much ability as any of my counterparts to do the same job.
I can do the job. There's no question about it.
Yeah, it's that I don't need to go ask Uncle Ed. I don't need to go ask my husband. I can make these decisions on my own
Yeah.
and have educated decisions about what's right for the business, what's right for me, what's right for my staff and the clients ultimately.
And I'm guessing having those peers, those female peers, is even more essential now than it was even when you started.
Oh, absolutely. Because when I was younger, I was relying on a lot of older, I shouldn't say older men, but I was relying on men older than me as mentors because there weren't many women to look up to. And there were a few, but the ones that I had the easiest access to were men.
Mhm.
So a lot of times it came with an assumption that Haley's hearing this from these people. So that's where she's coming up with her ideas. When if you really knew me, you'd know that my opinions are free are very independently created. So it's an issue where yeah, those are the people I'm looking to for support and guidance, but they're not telling me what to think or do either. But I think also I've had really great male mentors who have really raised me up as a female too. I talked about the gentleman I spoke to yesterday. I call him because he respects my opinion as a business owner, but he also reflects back to me the positivity I need sometimes as a woman. He's good at validating that, hey, you're smart, you're capable, you're doing the right thing. And sometimes we just need that, whether it's from a male counterpart or a female counterpart that just says, hey, you know what, you've got this. Now make it happen. And so, whether you find that from other females or just in the network in general, finding those people who are allies and supporters of you are very important.
So that mentorship unlocked for you your confidence in some ways.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
else did that help
definitely.
with?
I think because I didn't come from a business background, I came from a deficit in that I have an analytical mind, I can think through problems, but learning how to read a profit and loss statement or understanding what your balance sheet means, those were all things that some of my peers learned either in corporate America, they learned in college. There's still some who still haven't learned to that, to be honest. But
Everybody
we've
gets
been
there eventually.
everybody gets there. But those were things that I could go to and say, hey, I don't understand this, or explain to me why your cost of goods here is affecting this someplace else. And they were willing to sit down and be patient with me and help me learn. That way I could be confident in making my own decisions, which is really important to me versus relying on a professional. And I am 100%. You need to use your professionals. You need an accountant. You need a lawyer. All of those people are amazing. But at the end of the day, the business owner is who makes or breaks the business. And you have to understand the inputs and outputs and what it means when you either bring in more revenue or have more costs or add another employee. So those were the pieces that I really felt like I needed to build in order to feel confident in running my business.
Yeah, because honestly, the decisions end with you.
Mhm.
Yes, you have the lawyer, they advise you on certain things. Your tax and accounting folks, they'll advise you on other things, but they can recommend, but they're not making those decisions for you.
Yeah.
They'll tell you what the
And
consequences are if you don't do certain things, I'm sure.
and I love my attorney because he's always telling me, this is the risk with this, but you have to decide whether you want to do it or not. And sometimes I take his advice and say, yeah, that's too risky. And a lot of times I say, I'm willing to accept that risk and we're going to do it my way. At least I know I go in with eyes wide open and can make the best decision for where we are.
And honestly, for any business owner, that's what you need. You need that education so that way you can make an informed decision.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's where you're pulling the people, the tools that you need to make that decision.
And sometimes those people are other professionals. They are the IT people, they're the attorneys, but sometimes those are also peers that have a specific skill set or a specific experience or piece of equipment that I have yet to experience, and calling them for that support just makes me better. I think both men and women, but a lot of times women don't ask for the help that they need because they're fearful of looking uneducated or less than. And the truth is that most people would love to help you. And if you just reach out and say, can you help me? Or can you help me think through this? That you're going to receive so much out of that. And then doing that when somebody stops and asks you, taking the time to say, yes, I can do that. I can help you. I want you to succeed too.
Yeah, it's so true. So many women that I've talked to, it's that same thing. They don't want to ask the questions because they don't want to seem less than. Because they always feel like they're fighting for the position that they got, that they are fighting to hold on to all of the things that they have. If I don't show up and know everything, am I going to lose this?
And it's a significant fear and it's a legitimate fear. I have a phone call or a client call that many years ago, that probably wasn't that long ago, but a few years ago, somebody called, was looking for some vinyl graphics for a vehicle or something. And he was asking me a bunch of questions. And finally he said, are you sure it'll work? Do you need to go check with, I can't remember how he phrased it, but something along the lines of, do you need to go ask the guys? And he probably got a side of me that most people didn't want. But I was like, I am the owner of this business. I can confirm that, yes, this will work on your piece of equipment. I do not need to go check with anybody. And you can take my word for it. Those things happen more frequently than we want to admit sometimes. But at the same time, the only way I would know that confidently is having to go and ask those questions at some point. Yeah. Having educated myself either with my team or through a vendor or a technician or something that yes, you still have to go ask those questions. And it's easier and the barriers are so lower if we seek that out and get support versus trying to figure it out on our own.
Definitely. But then the question is, how can we get that question less from those people? That, I want you to go ask the guys. How can we get less of that?
It's sometimes hard. My sales staff is female and they get a lot of that pushback sometimes, I think, from certain customers. But I think they also prove their worth in that I give them the autonomy to say, and I want them to take the autonomy to say, I don't know that, but I will find out for you. And we do that in such a way that if they're not checking with the guys or they're not checking with somebody smarter, they don't know and they are going to go figure it out. They're not going to ask somebody to figure it out for them. They are going to go figure it out. And part of that is an empowerment of them, but part of it is too to just say that in the printing world, there is so much that we can do that they can't remember. We can't remember everything that's possible or what vendor we use for what bindery technique that we don't do in-house. Sometimes we do it once a year and we're like, who is it that we use for that? So I want them to be free to say, I don't know, but I will find out. And to be confident in the fact that they can do it themselves.
And that's going to build the trust in the relationship because that way the customer knows that they're going to come back with that correct information. They'll have the answer and they're going to work on it together to make sure that the project is done.
And sometimes that may mean going to one of the men on our team, but sometimes we have a woman on our production side. It may mean going to her. It could mean going to a graphic designer or another AlphaGraphics owner. And it doesn't matter where that answer comes from. It is still valid because of the person who is doing the work to figure out the problem.
Definitely. So as we're wrapping up is knowing what you know now. So your history, even your degree in biology, which still boggles my mind, to all that you did from selling promotional products to now running a business. If you were starting today, just walking into your AlphaGraphics, fresh-faced, no history, no background, what advice would you give yourself?
I think what I would tell myself today is to stress less. I think I came in just feeling like my hair was on fire and everything had to be done at once. We had to grow sales. We had to figure out the staffing issues. We had to do this and that, and the next thing. And just to let myself know that you don't have to burn yourself out to be able to still be successful, that there is more balance in life. And in the long run, I think you do better when you find that balance early because burning yourself out ends up sending you backwards sometimes. Giving myself the permission to take a little less stress off the plate. There can be more of a balance, and it's not always balanced. It's a seesaw where one day it's going to lean towards family and one day it's going to lean towards business. But as long as there's more middle ground than there is one or the other, then it's success.
I think that's important, and it's hard for a lot of people to do.
Yeah. And I think it's hard for a lot of women, particularly women with families still at home. My oldest is getting ready to go to college soon, and that brings a whole new stress.
Oh, yeah.
She's looking at colleges and where does she want to go? And that's a different kind of mental stress and financial stress and all the different things that are different than when she was 1 year old and we were starting the business. It's being able to enjoy every part and every stage that you're in and not let the business overshadow some of the other good stuff, because the business is always going to be there. It's still going to be good. We've had a great success and we're going to continue to have good success, and just giving myself the permission to stress about it a little less would probably be. I should probably take some of that advice today too, but
Sometimes that's easier said than done. Because like you said, you came into the business with your hair on fire. Everything was important. Everything had to be done. But looking back, hindsight, I could have waited on this, or I could have paused this and focused on one or the other. But also I think as women too, we try to do everything.
we do.
It's in our nature.
Yeah. You try to shake on everything. You try to solve all the problems at once. And as one of my friends says, you can only eat the elephant one bite at a time. And it's really hard for us sometimes not to focus on getting involved in everything, because we can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah. That's something I think a lot of us are still learning to work through, no matter what position we're in throughout our days, whether we're in production, whether we're in C-suite and management. There's only so much we can physically, emotionally, mentally handle every single day.
And giving yourself the permission to know when you need to call a break, when you need to say, hey, I need a mental health day. Yesterday was stressful and I need a day to recoup from that. And giving ourselves the permission to do those things sometimes and take care of ourselves in a way that ultimately benefit our families and our teams and our businesses, because we're taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're the best that we can be at any given moment.
Exactly. You don't want to be like, I was grumpy McGrumpy Pants last week. Yeah, there's points in time when you just need to step back, because it's not going to get better until you can get your head in the right place.
And taking that time to think, that's one of the things that I've done better over the last few years too, is making that time to think, making that time to no distractions, no music, no kids, no nothing, just, okay, what are the problems or what are the things that we need to focus on, and just sit back and, okay, let your mind wander. And that's really hard, because if you're not busy, we think we're not doing anything.
Exactly.
But thinking is a doing. Sometimes we need to do more of that and less of the busy work.
Exactly. Haley, it was a pleasure chatting with you today. Thank you so much for taking some time. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Denise. So did I. And I enjoy being here. And I hope that all the women that are part of our community can continue to thrive and grow in the next year.
I think that's what we want to do for everyone. Make sure everybody's thriving as we continue on this path we call printing.
Exactly. Yep, it is a journey.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this journey to celebrate and amplify the voices of women in the printing industry. If you have a story to share or know someone whose journey deserves to be highlighted, we'd love to hear from you. Together, let's continue inspiring and empowering the next generation of leaders. Until next time, keep leaving your imprint. This is Her Imprint. See you soon.